99% of runners are building their aerobic base completely wrong. And in this video, I'll reveal how I'm building the biggest base possible using a few simple and easy steps. So here's the most common misconception. You have to run easy and avoid all hard running during your base phase. We've all heard it. How boring. But what if I were to tell you that you can run fast without running hard? Let me explain. When I first started running, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And of course, I did the standard mistake of running way too hard and thinking I'd somehow get fitter. An all-time classic mistake. And I'd like to think that I've gotten a little bit better since then, especially when it comes to understanding all of my pace ranges. And fast forward to my first half marathon in December, I was running at 3:46 per kilometer for the entire race. And in this race, I learnt my first lesson about why hard and fast are inherently different. For the first 45 minutes, it felt like nothing and it felt like I was floating along on a cloud, otherwise known as the vapor flies. But as the fatigue started to set into my legs, it became quite hard, and then really hard, and then unbearably hard. And before I knew it, I was fighting for my life in the last 500 meters. That's because the course was a bit long and I realized that I was 500 meters away from where I thought I was. Anyways, now I can run at 3:46 pace for 100 meters, 500 meters, 5 kilometers without any issues at all. But it seems to me that it's the time that I spend at that pace that is a determinant to how hard it actually is. So here's what I learned from this experience. It's not the running pace that makes something hard, it's the duration of that running pace. And this is really important for base building. Later in the video, I'll show you 2 more examples of marathon world champions and Olympic champions who understand how to run fast without running hard. And I'll also show you what I'm doing during my base building phase as I build towards my first marathon. But first, let's talk about the aerobic base. Now, the goal of base building is to build the biggest aerobic base that we can possible. But we know that the aerobic base is not the only thing that results in fast racing times. The first is VO2 max. A VO2 max number quantifies how much oxygen you can intake into your body in a given time. So it quantifies how fast you can actually run whilst remaining aerobic. Now the second is running economy, or how efficient you are at running at a certain speed. And it's often developed when running at or faster than your goal race pace. The third thing is mindset. Having a strong mindset helps you to push harder even when your legs are falling apart, like me in my half marathon last year. These 4 things determine what happens on race day, but they're built up months in advance. Now let's play devil's advocate for a second. If you were to try and develop all of these different factors of fitness at the same time, it would be a complete disaster. Here are a couple of disaster scenarios that could and probably would occur. Number 1, you probably wouldn't get any fitter. And that's because most of the running and the races that 90% of runners actually want to tick off their goal list are primarily aerobic. For example, an all-out 5K is going to be 95% aerobic. And scenario number 2 is that you're going to get mentally fatigued. Training hard all the time and being in this gray zone between different pace ranges is really mentally taxing. And number 3, most importantly, you're probably going to get injured pretty quickly actually. And yeah, you might want to run, but you're not going to be able to because you're going to be sitting on the couch. So taking that all into account, here's how I would prioritize all 4 of those factors in different stages before a goal race. I would focus on my aerobic base and my running economy early in my base phase. And as I get more specific with my training, I would ramp up the VO2 max training and I'd start to focus on my mindset. But what constitutes easy running and VO2 max running and everything in between? Now, I like to think of running paces like a pyramid, where the bottom of the base is our aerobic base with slow, easy pace running. And as we move higher in the pyramid and we go up layer by layer, we get faster and faster and faster. Later in the video, I'll put my training onto this pyramid so that you can get a better idea of the paces. So stick around. But first, let's talk about what would happen if you ran slow for an entire training block. Now, if you're looking to do a base building phase, then you're already on the right track to getting faster, because forward planning is so critical in gaining fitness that you've never had before. So great job. But this common misconception of running really slow for months at a time can be a detriment to your training. And it might even negate any progress that you've had in the past with different training blocks. When I only run easy, I find that my running mechanics start to get worse. And this is because running faster tends to improve all the factors that go into improving your running economy. As I mentioned earlier, running economy is a complex and multifactorial calculation of how efficient you are at sub-maximal running. And while it includes measurements of your cardiovascular and metabolic processes, it also takes into account your biomechanical and neuromuscular efficiency. And thankfully, our slow and easy pace running already takes care of our metabolic and our cardiovascular systems. But the second half of this equation can get left behind completely, that being the biomechanical and the neuromuscular efficiency. But here is what's interesting. Your neuromuscular system can adapt really well to slow pace running, and you get really good at running really slow. The problem lies in when you transition out of this zone 2 base phase into anything specific. During this period of only doing slow running, it can be pretty common to start to lose the running efficiency that you gained in the past during a training block. And this may lead to a loss of mobility and flexibility through your hips, but also the stiffness in your lower legs to actually rebound yourself off the ground. Because when we're running faster, we utilize a lot more of our hip range of motion, and we also spend a lot less time on the ground. So here's the biggest conundrum that we have to figure out to get you to have a productive base phase without losing the running efficiency that you've gained in previous training cycles. To do this, we need some fast running, but not hard running. Let me explain. So to explain this, let's have a look at the base building program of the absolute tank and former 5K and 10K world champion, Haile Gebrselassie. This program is a sample of only one of his weeks in his base building plan. And for an athlete like myself, when I look at this plan, I just am shocked at how fast some humans can be. But for him, despite this being really fast, it's not actually inherently that hard. On Tuesday, for example, we see that he does 10 lots of 100-meter sprints, which he's probably covering in around 15 or so seconds. And this is really helping to maintain that running economy with the biomechanical and the neuromuscular components. And if we look at some of these tempo runs on fartleks, he's running them at 310 to 330-ish per kilometer, which is actually slower than his marathon pace. So yes, he's running at these faster speeds, but the way that he's running these faster speeds puts him so far under his capabilities of a runner. His track session on a Saturday is probably the only thing that I would consider hard. And that's because he's doing kilometer repeats at 255 per kilometer. But once again, that's around his marathon pace. So it's not too crazy. So this kind of training is not only helping him to maintain and maybe even build his aerobic base, but he's also attacking every single different pace range throughout the week to make sure that he's not losing his running economy that he built up the season prior. And this is all done in a way that doesn't really produce too much fatigue. Genius. Here's another great example of this style of base training from the multiple world champion and all-around track star, Kenenisa Bekele. During his marathon training, it's been reported that after his easy runs, he will do 30 lots of 100-meter strides. 30 strides. To put this in context, these strides are probably around his mile pace, maybe even a little bit faster. So over 100 meters, it's not really enough to cause any kind of fatigue. If we remember back to the pyramid, strides are right at the top of the pyramid where it's really fast speeds, but they're only going to feel like that kind of intensity range if we're doing 1 minute, 2 minute or 3 minute intervals. So these are two really good examples from running legends that show us that yes, they're running fast all year round, but they're not necessarily running hard. So let's have a look at how I've adapted that into my training to get the same benefits. I'm currently in week 3 of my 10-week base building block, and I'll be honest, I'm absolutely loving it. On Monday, I started with a 30-minute easy run, and on Tuesday, I did 20 minutes easy before getting into 10 lots of 3 minutes at my threshold pace. This pace is slightly faster than my half marathon pace, so really for 3 minutes, it feels quite comfortable. Wednesday was a 50-minute easy run in zone 2, and I finished it off with 10 lots of 100-meter strides, Bekele style. On Thursday, I did another 20 minutes of easy running before doing 6 lots of 5 minutes at threshold pace again. So my heart rate averaged 155 to 160 across all of the 5-minute reps. Friday was another Bekele classic where I did my easy run for 50 minutes and then did 10 more strides. Saturday, I did a nice easy park run with my girlfriend before finishing it off with the key session of the week, my speed session. This workout was 3 rounds of 1K, 400, 400. Now the pace of the 1K segment was faster than my 5K pace, or at least the 5K pace that I think I should probably be able to do now. And the 400s were slightly faster than that. So the reps are fast, but they're relatively short. So this session didn't feel too bad. This is a great session and I recommend that you try it in your base phase to continue to move your running economy in the right direction. Give it a go. And when you split it up like this, it looks just like the pyramidal style threshold training that the Norwegians do. Interesting. Threshold training is a great way to increase the amount of speed and intensity that you can get into your base phase without going too hard and risking burnout, overreaching, or overtraining, or even injury. And the best thing about threshold training is it is also developing your aerobic system, just like zone 2 running. Because your threshold pace is specifically the point at which you can't run any faster without going anaerobic. So it is aerobic. So it makes sense to implement 1 or 2 threshold sessions per week during your base phase to not only address the lower aerobic system, but also the higher aerobic system. Now, if you're interested in understanding more about threshold training and understanding how athletes like Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Iden, and the Ingebrigtsen brothers get so fast, so quick, then you're gonna have to watch this next video when I make it sometime this week.